Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
All right, you guys ready to hear the tweet of the day?
Yes.
From Addison E.C. Smith on Twitter. If Nino Niederreiter married Nick Bonino, his name would have been Nino Bonino.
This is factual.
Those are the things I need to hear in this dark and bleak world.
What are we even going to do for the next hour that's going to top that?
I can tell you a story about how I almost had to throw hands at the golf course today.
Oh, I want to hear that.
So 5 o'clock tee time, twilight, so all the creatures come out from the bush to play. In front of us, there's a twosome in a cart, just like an older couple. In front of them is a walking foursome, and then in front of them is a karting foursome. So tee sheet's jammed. Behind us is a group of 4 in 3 carts. So anyway, we play the first hole, par 4, whatever. Second hole, par 3, whatever. Fourth hole is par 4. Waiting for, the lineup's already begun. So I hit my tee shot. Another buddy hits his tee shot. Another buddy hits his. Last guy hits his into the water, so he has to re-tee. Group behind us is now, starting to pull up, which is fine. And the one guy literally just gets out of his cart and is like, how many balls are we going to hit here, guys? I just turned around. He was shorter than Brad, so, he had to get to the ring to Mordor. I turned around and I was like, are you serious? That's all he said was, how many balls are we going to hit here, guys? He's mid-20s. And I was like, he's like, the group in front of you is already off the green. I was like, yeah, and they're going to be sitting on that tee block for 20 minutes while the group in front of them is still teeing off. And I was like, if you got a problem with that, I was like, why don't you go call the clubhouse to get a marshal out here and we can talk about it. And he goes, oh, the 2 guys I'm playing with are marshals here. I was like, well, then they should know better. I was like, why don't you shut the fuck up?
Ooh, golf burn.
Yeah, I was so mad. I was about ready to just grab my fucking 7-iron and just go ham.
I've never seen Evan so heated before.
Dude, I was so pissed. And I was just like, oh, good times. Good times out at Conestoga Golf Course.
Can you imagine walking up to a local, on a local golf course and complaining about having to re-tee?
They saw my buddy hit his tee shot in the water, so he has to re-tee the ball. Hey, how many balls are you gonna hit? I should have just fucking I'm gonna hit another one.
I would have put off the tee blocks. 100% I would have put off the tee blocks.
Grab the old sand wedge and hit it about 100 yards. We're gonna play that way the rest of the round. Man.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm getting fired up just thinking about it again. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because I'm going to start thinking about it. But my buddies are loving it. They're like, dude, you just you had no fear.
You guys,
I have no time for people like that.
You don't know this, Evan, but that was actually Brad and I. We paid an actor to go do that just to rile you up before the episode to get you a little bit more lively.
You guys got some good content out there ready for the Patreon exclusive videos.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that's hysterical.
Yeah. So my day's been good.
Brad, I'm scared to ask you.
I'll just say today's been Murphy's Law and leave it at that.
Yeah, all right. All right. Well, I won't, nothing's happened to me. I don't know. I'm fine. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe actually I'll stub my toe later in solidarity. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Though we do talk about hockey, it is nice to know that Evan does still live and breathe as a human being. I haven't actually seen anger from Evan in a long time, so that was...
Nothing gets me more mad other than that and someone tailgating me when I'm already going 20 over the speed limit.
The closest I've been to angering Evan is when we happened to play in the same work softball league. I played with my colleagues and he played with his, and he just couldn't get the ball past me. I was playing first base and I was just like an auto glove out there. He could not at all hit past me.
Remember the time I played for your team and I thought I jacked a homer and I just stood there and then the guy just got it? It wasn't even close.
You did a lot of hot dogging, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Anyways, this is Detroit Red Wings podcast, or at least we do our best to be. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm so very, very tired.
And I'm Bubble Boy Evan.
On this episode of the podcast, we of course do have more to talk about the real NHL playoffs, developments in that, some things to do with the Department of Player Safety, just a review as to what series are still going and which ones have ended, unfortunately. We'll be talking a little bit about the Red Wings here and there, and then NHL draft content. So we'll be talking about our prospect profile this week. Of course, last episode was Jamie Drysdale, and everyone was had a lot to say about that one, good, bad, or otherwise. I just redirected all of the hate towards Evan.Lobsinger at wingedwheelpodcast.com. Just kidding. We don't actually have our own email server set up yet, but maybe someday. I don't know. And then overtime. I don't know. Midweek episode. We'll get wild with it. When we have fulfilled our requisite not hockey sports talk. So Brad, you and I are out for this episode. We can't talk about it unless it's relevant to Detroit sports at all. Which, let me open. Tonight was the NBA draft lottery, and believe it or not, the Pistons had no luck and will be drafting 7th overall.
Shocking.
Is there a hex that's been put on the city of Detroit that we need to lift? Is some kind of sacrifice? Do we need to offer Evan to the sports gods?
I'll do it.
He would. Evan would find it as a sweet escape. I don't know where you're going to go if we do that. It'll be sunshine and early tea times for you though. So the world of Detroit sports continues to be a little bit hopeless, but not awful for the Tigers, except they lost their series against the White Sox. I don't know. Anyways,
the pitcher looked real good. That new one, the one drafted, looked real good.
Casey
Mize, who knows? I always
Casey Mize, right? Not Mize.
It's probably Mize.
No, it's Casey Mize. He had a good outing. He had a really good outing. It was a good first showing for him, and it just offered this glimmer of hope for Detroit sports fans that we get so rarely. It kind of reminded you of when Zadina scored his first goal of the season this year. And it would have been the feeling we would have had if Sider took the ice this year, but of course that wasn't to be. But for now, the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's slowing down now. We no longer have 11 games a day starting at noon, and I'm super sad about it.
Yeah, it's made my workday a lot longer because, I don't get to watch hockey all day. There wasn't even a single game on today at the entirety of my workday, which was the first since the whole plan thing started. So I had to watch reruns from last night, which there were some good games last night, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, the first game today started at what,
8:30, I think. 8 or 8:30.
I think it was 8.
Yeah, that's
the first period was ending just before we started recording.
That's rough when the second game is halfway through the second period. Usually by the end of my workday, it's kind of tougher to get through the actual work part of it.
Yes.
Today's games though, I'm trying to remember. Is it the Islanders playing right now?
Yes, the Islanders are up 2-0 on the Capitals as we speak in the second period.
And the Stars and the Flames are playing later tonight. So just as a quick update across the NHL, Vegas took the series over Chicago. Colorado took the series over Arizona. Both of those were 4-1 in 5 games. Tampa Bay ended up winning in the same amount of games against Columbus, and Boston similarly against Carolina. And so still active, we have Dallas with a 3-2 lead over Calgary. Vancouver with a 3-2 lead over St. Louis, Philly with a 3-2 lead over Montreal, and the Islanders with a 3-1 lead over the Caps. So a lot of good hockey still to be played, and in my mind, kind of a couple surprising 3 or 4-1 victories. I would say I'm pretty surprised by Boston over Carolina in 5. I was expecting, I had predicted Carolina to win, so obviously I was just outright wrong about that, but I was expecting that to at least go a little bit further.
I think they really missed Svechnikov after he got hurt, and Was Brett Pesce out the entire series? Yeah. Those are two very key injuries, and Svechnikov was an absolute horse in the not playoffs, but are actually playoffs. And Boston, like, they're vets at this, right? Like, they've gone through the ringer, and this is just a good learning experience for Carolina. So it was a bit of a disappointment, but I don't think there's anything for them to be upset about.
For all the hype and talking we did about, well, not just us, everybody did about how unique the circumstances were, how chaotic these playoffs would be and the play-ins would be, and then, of course, the first round of the playoffs would be. The first round has sucked so far. Like, there's been a couple series that have been interesting, but literally half the series ended in 5 games. Like, some of the series that we thought would be amazing have sucked. And you said Boston and Carolina was going to be great. And I thought that would maybe be the most entertaining series of the bunch. Nope. Carolina bows out in 5. Washington Islanders looks like if the score holds up as it is now, that would have been fun, except the Islanders are just taking it to them. Colorado absolutely manhandled Arizona. If Darcy Kemper didn't steal that game, Colorado might have took that series in 3. I mean, it's not been bad hockey. Like, the Columbus-Tampa series was great for 5 games. I'll give it that. Like, every game was good. And thank God Montreal and Philly finally gave us some hate.
There's some bad blood now, figuratively and metaphorically.
It's the one series giving us like really good content because we have dirty crap happening on the ice, a reasonably close series, and coaches saying insanely stupid garbage. This is the series we needed.
Yeah, you need that kind of blood to be boiling and also spilled on the ice, I guess, to have this kind of excitement. And Brad, your point's right. Like, obviously, this wasn't an absolutely thrilling round so far, not in terms of the quality of the hockey played, but just in like the overarching storylines and how it's playing out. Anytime a series ends in 5 and you're a neutral observer and has the potential to be like a great series, you're a little bit sad. You want it to go to 6 or 7. But it's also kind of hampered by the fact that it's following an absolute wild play-in round. So no matter what the series was going to turn out to be, it was never going to look great in comparison.
Was the play-in round that wild though? One series went the distance.
It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters the distance when it's a 5-game series. I think it matters the outcomes. That was the crazy part.
It was chaotic in the outcomes, which was nice. To see some upsets to get some storylines, but I mean, outside of Montreal, the quote-unquote upsets of the first round got destroyed in the first round of the playoffs. Like, Arizona very clearly didn't belong. Chicago very clearly didn't belong. Montreal's treading water right now. I mean, they just staved off an elimination last game, and so now they're only down 3-2. And they've been keeping Philly off the scoreboard. They just couldn't score themselves. I mean, the petty side of me, which, don't get me wrong, is a very big side of me, is happy to see these teams that should have never been there in the first place just getting wiped, because it's like, well, NHL, what did you expect? Yeah, you get hot for a week and then you remember actual hockey needs to be played, and these crappy teams get dusted. Like I said, for the NHL's sake, at least Montreal's treading water. And it's about to get a whole lot more interesting next game. But them losing Gallagher is going to be a huge hindrance on them. But
broken jaw. And Alain Vigneault,
he's fine. It was a hockey play. Oh my God. How is there a coach? Okay. I'm not talking about an actual hockey mind here, but is there a dumber coach than Alain Vigneault right now?
I mean, Paul Maurice said almost the same thing about Matthew Tkachuk.
Okay, but here's the thing. Vigneault has a twofer in this first round. He's fine, it was a hockey play, and then it gets revealed a day later that he's got a broken jaw is easily worse than what Maurice said, because at the time, like, with Maurice's thing, there was varying opinions. Most people sided against him, but whatever. At least there were some people backing him. But let's not forget, Alain Vigneault is also the guy who got mad because Montreal put their top power play unit on the ice while up 5-0. Like, grow up, dude. And you're going to complain about a power play because you sucked that night? And then you're,
Yeah,
what?
maybe if this was bantam hockey, I would be okay with that. Or if they played with an imaginary puck and everyone got awards at the end of the game. But this is the real deal. These are big boys. Yeah. They got to wear their big boy pants, and when you lose, you lose. Like
three things about the whole power play thing. One, this is a pandemic. Fans can't watch the game live. We're starving for any hockey content we can. We really don't want the game to be over with 20 minutes left. So I appreciate Montreal keeping us entertained. Two, if you think that stats don't matter for these guys because it's a team sport, you're wrong. This is how guys get extra figures added to their contracts every year. So if I pick someone like Shea Weber, well, his contract's never ending. So let's say Jeff Petrie, who's a UFA soon, pops a power play goal in the playoffs. Yeah, he does that enough times. It's going to look a little better on his next contract. And three, if you don't want him to do it, don't suck. Like, this is almost as dumb as the whole Fernando Tatis thing in the MLB. Like, Jesus Christ. I hate professional whiners so much.
Isn't that what we are, though?
100% that's what we are.
No, we are complainers. There's a difference. Get it right.
Man. My certificate says whiner on it.
Whatever, but we're not professional. This is absolutely amateur hour over here.
Yeah, in the off season, yeah, absolutely it is. For you guys who are thinking, are they referencing this whole baseball thing that's going on? Yeah, we 100% are. As much as we give hockey and, the hockey universe and the hockey infrastructure hell for getting in its own way and just being old and grumpy and afraid of being like fun, it's never as bad as baseball. Major League Baseball is just obsessed with being crusty and stupid and their unwritten rules. Man, screw your unwritten rules. I honestly hope a team is up 15-0 and jacks a grand slam against the Texas Rangers this year. Although, wouldn't they like 3 or 4 straight nights of grand slams after that?
It's always the Texas Rangers. They are the worst.
Hey, Texas baseball teams are not in a good place in terms of public opinion right now.
Great. They deserve every bit of it. But, Tatis stealing third the next game. Yes. Put it right into my veins.
No, I love the good hockey. I love the banter. I'm not too bothered by what Vigneault said because I think there's a little bit more gamesmanship there. Like it was it's
his guy, right? Like it's in his best interest to defend his guy regardless of what he truly thinks, just like Maurice did.
Yeah. Like, are you wrong, Brad? No, absolutely not.
It is a homer take, like what he said for sure. Not Brad, but what Vigneault said. But yeah, totally get it.
The fans and the other team should just ignore it. Like, that's just the simple matter of it. He would have done the same thing. You don't left your foot off the gas for any reason at all, except to like stop your pros from getting injured.
Here's the thing, though, that drives me nuts about what Vigneault said with the Niskanen and Gallagher incident. You can say it's a hockey play. I mean, obviously, we disagree with that.
Oh, I was talking about the power play thing. I wasn't talking about the hockey play thing.
No. I'm going to the thing, because this is where Vigneault lost credibility with me. Like, you can be a whiner all you want. Like, literally, that's what I do 90% of my day. It's fine. But when he said it was a hockey play, but he said he basically diagnosed Gallagher. Oh, he's probably fine, or whatever he said. Are you stupid? Hey, you don't know what's going on. He was bleeding profusely. You can't say he was fine. And then if he turns out he's not fine, you look like the biggest donkey on the planet. And for Vigneault's PR, it was the worst case scenario because Gallagher had a broken jaw. Do you know how hard it is to break your jaw? How hard you have to get hit? Like, that is just such a bone. It's why I don't give anybody advice on anything, because I'm not smart enough to give anybody advice on anything. So I'm not going to play doctor. I'm not going to play politician. I'm not going to play any of this crap. Why should you, as a hockey coach, play doctor.
Don't you give
asinine.
Evan and I advice off air, like constantly?
No, I brace you for the horrors of life that lay ahead.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not a
tell you how
doctor.
to handle it. I just tell you what's coming.
I'm not a doctor. I just play one on a podcast.
This is the first, like, Brad skipped like the whole honeymoon years of having kids and went instantly from like age 30 to age 40 in terms of raising his kids.
It happened with the second kid. One kid, cakewalk.
It really did, because Mika, you would not accept that you were at least a little tired, which you definitely were physically, but you just wouldn't accept it. And then Hank came and just like it sucked the life out of you.
See, because here's what I've noticed. With Mika, you got breaks. For as active and hyper as she is, when you have one kid, they go down for a nap or they're playing with their iPad in the corner. They're playing by themselves on the toy. You know what you can do? You can sit your ass on the couch and do nothing. Do you know what happens when you have two kids? One of them always needs something. One of them always is keeping your attention. So you get no free time. Anybody who has north of two kids, to me, is clinically insane. And I applaud you because I have no idea how you do it.
All right, Brad, take your bet. Who has kids first, Evan or myself?
I'll go with Evan based surely on age.
Thank you.
That's a smart, reasonable, but
Yeah.
definitely not in the near future.
But anyway, so circling back to Vino though. Now, I already said how stupid it is that he wanted to play doctor. Now let's talk about why he's stupid. We're calling it a hockey play too. So the one defense I've seen in Niskanen's favor is that he didn't mean to cross-check him in the face that hard because Gallagher turned. I'll give you that. I mean, I still think he had a bit of time to lay up, but it's a quick game. Everything looks worse in slow motion. I'll give Niskanen the full benefit of the doubt that he didn't mean to cross-check Gallagher in the face. What he meant to do was cross-check him from behind 2 feet from the boards, which isn't much better, Matt.
I think the one real incriminating piece is the similarity it had to his, we'll say, quote unquote, collision with Sidney Crosby. It was not the same, of course, but it was still a high cross check into the neck head area. And I don't think the Crosby one was nearly as malicious, but you can definitely draw some similarities to it.
The best defense you could give Niskanen between the two is his air quotations defense mechanism is to get his stick up and project it, like, because that's what he did with Crosby. This wasn't that though, because you see, I'm not going to get into my whole rant about how cross-checking is a penalty in hockey, but is literally never called. Is that you can guide a guy with your stick with your hands in the cross-checking position, but you're not propelling it into him. You're just kind of guiding him, giving him a nudge, keeping distance, whatever you want. Niskanen full thrust of his arms and shoulders as hard as he possibly could from the looks of it into Gallagher here. This was malicious to the bone. And even if Gallagher didn't turn, this wasn't going to end well for him. There is no defending this. This should be a lengthy suspension in my books, but because it's the NHL, he only got one game.
I'm watching it right now, and I'm not even sure slow motion is worse because real speed is just as bad.
So the part that gets me is Kotkaniemi was given 5 in a game for a hit from behind. And now I also want to talk about that hit, but it doesn't matter what your opinion is on the hit, whether you think it's should have been a 5 in a game or just a boarding. You could say giving it 5 in a game, I think is a fair assessment to say that's a strong call. Like that is a pretty heavy punishment considering what he did. Like there's definitely an argument to be made that it wasn't worth 5 in a game. And to see what Niskanen got.
Isn't it because it was contact to the head and it's an automatic major?
Well, the refs reviewed it, so this is where
I didn't actually see it, but I thought that's what the rule was.
Yeah, so the refs can call a major, and when they call a major, they can review it and reduce it. So we'll probably actually see this a lot more, where there'll be like a borderline play, and they'll just go straight to majors, so they can review it and knock it down to a 2-minute if they want. I mean, I agree with what Kotkaniemi did. He left his feet. It was to the player's back.
You agreed with what he did? You agree with headshots? Oh,
yes, absolutely.
Brad.
I agree with the punishment he got.
What a goon.
he propelled himself into Sanheim's head from behind. Sanheim was turning, obviously, but I don't even care about that. He was a foot away from the boards, and he launched himself into his head. That should be a game misconduct 10 out of 10 times. Anybody who's arguing it is wrong. If you're making the argument of it's not called every time, and that made it garbage, I agree with you. But that doesn't make this one wrong. It makes all the other times it's not called wrong.
Yeah, I just saw that hit. It's bad. It's right in the numbers, and he just painted him against the board.
Thank you, because I thought it was going nuts, because every single comment, message, post, smoke signal, carrier pigeon that I saw said that was a bad call. Like, that should have been a boarding. That's called boarding almost every other time. And all I could think was, look, I get that I have some like playful, like, oh, Zadina's better than Kotkaniemi bias here, but that's not at all what's coming to play. I think that was a good 5-minute game call.
It was.
There's certainly a few elements that added to the recipe of disaster. Doesn't help that Sanheim's a left-handed defenseman and he shoots the puck in, so he's naturally turning away from the ice and towards the boards. But the onus is still on Kotkaniemi to not, paint him like that. And I get that it's playoff hockey and you finish your checks, but that's a guy in a super vulnerable position. And you don't have to paint him like that. You can just kind of rub him out and still eliminate him from the play, but not eliminate him from the ice surface.
Or just cross-check him in the face and break his jaw.
Exactly. Then you only get one game. Who cares?
It was the upwards project. He launched himself. That's not a hit. That's a charge. Like, that's the definition of the jumping motion. Like, and you can freeze frame were his feet on or off the ice at the moment of impact. It doesn't matter. He was launching. That should be a game, and that should be a game every time. Again, I will absolutely agree with the argument that the precedent the NHL has set over however long means that's not a game misconduct. You're right. It hasn't been. And I'm agreeing with your consistency point, but this was not wrong. If this is the first one they get right and this is the new precedent, I'm happy. It's the same thing with the Atkinson-Hedman non-call in the 5 overtime game in Tampa. Objectively, should Hedman have got a penalty on that breakaway? No, it was the right call to not call it, but based on the fact that in the second period, Seth Jones did the exact same thing and did get a penalty for it, it's a consistency issue. Almost everything with NHL reffing comes down to consistency because nobody to this day knows what is and isn't a penalty. It's a fast game. It's a hard job. I get it, but how the hell are we still having these arguments in the playoffs?
Evan, how long until he spins us into an anti-offside review?
Well, just give it another 30 seconds. Well, now it's not going to happen. It's all your fault.
At least there's consistency with those. But anyways.
Yeah, you're right, Brad. Like, it all comes down to the inconsistency of the reffing, and that isn't just a bad element for the game. Like, they put the Department of Player Safety should be that overarching defense mechanism for the players, but it's not. So now the blame falls on them and the refs.
Yeah. The refs, the nature of refereeing in hockey, because there's no automation to it. And I'm not calling for robo refs or Skycam, although I would love Skycam. I'm not like advocating for that openly. The nature of refereeing in hockey is going to make it unpredictable and to a baseline degree that you will never be able to shake unreliable. And like Evan just said, that's what the Department of Player Safety is supposed to correct against. There's a certain like allowance in there where like, yeah, this call was called the wrong way on the ice, but it's not like an earth-shatteringly terrible call. But for the big ones, the DOPS is supposed to step in and say, hey, no, that one is supposed to be fixed. Here, we fixed it. Bam. The world is sane again. But they're just like, they have the same amount of unpredictability and unreliability in my mind as the referees. So what's the point? Let's just take let's have the refs on the ice decide what the suspension is right then and there.
It should just be black and white. I'm okay with gray area in the NHL because for the refs, because it is so fast and they see things differently than we do at home. But the Department of Player Safety's got every single angle and they've got infinite amount of time to come up with a judgment. And the fact that it's so inconsistent is really bad.
The thing that makes me the most angry about referees is when they make bad call or when they make calls against the team that I want to win. And then when they don't make calls, Like, how dare they?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an absolute sin. You know, we don't have to worry about bad calls in the playoffs right now, thankfully. We'll be there one day. And, you know, remember this moment. 29:57 of episode whatever number, August 20th.
I forget what it's like. My heartbeat watching sports the other day, and it wasn't hockey, for like, you know, someone that I wanted to win or do well. And I was like, holy shit, that barely ever happens anymore. I remember when I could not go 3 consecutive nights without having my heart in my chest during this, well, not this time of year, but hockey playoffs.
Yes.
It's a completely different beast. The Kotkaniemi thing, one argument, and this comes up on a lot of hits that are called as flagrant or they're seen as borderline, and people say, oh, he turned, oh, he ducked, oh, he moved the last second. And you assess the amount of time that Kotkaniemi had. They're like, what do you expect him to do? I get it. People don't always understand the amount of reaction time that these professionals have. And they'll always say, what was I supposed to do? But don't be fooled. These are the best of the best in the world in terms of athleticism, reaction time, ability to control their body and their sticks. You will recognize a situation where they can't control what they're doing because A, it will happen in literally less than a frame that you see in slow-mo, and B, it will look like a circus. Kotkaniemi could have slowed down. Kotkaniemi could have turned. Kotkaniemi could have done something differently. I always think of Brad Marchand's like extended elbows. Like he always leaves his elbows out for way too long. And he's like, it was a continuation of like a shot or a stride or some dumb shit like that. And you're like, some fans, they buy into it. Maybe they haven't played. Maybe they haven't watched for too long. Maybe they,
or just because it's their team and they're like, yep, I'm behind this guy all the time.
And this isn't an elitist thing or a gatekeeping thing. Like, I understand why people think it, but just know that the margins are so fine in professional sports, and especially the NHL. Their reaction time is so much better than that. All 3 of us, I'm confident in saying could have slowed down on that hit. So I don't buy the argument that Kotkaniemi was already committed and that hit was happening no matter what. No, like Brad said, he launched himself upwards. Go ahead.
I was going to say, on plays like that, I don't even care about reaction time. Any good hockey player can read the play. Kotkaniemi probably knew by the center ice dot what the hell Sanheim was about to do. Hockey players are smart. Like, you're like, oh, how do you know what a guy does? You play the odds and you position yourself defensively that if he does try something weird that could be detrimental to you, you're not in a bad spot. So given that Sanheim was coming up the boards, all Kotkaniemi had to do there was skate at an angle and pressure him into the boards. And if Sanheim wanted to take the middle or just hit a second gear going up the boards, you're in the right angle to handle either. And that sounds complicated. It's not. It is super simple to take those angles. Like, all 3 of us idiots know how to take a proper angle with a guy coming up the boards through the neutral zone. It's one of the most basic defensive plays in hockey. And I don't play defense at all. So when I know what
Brad
to do in that
knows
situation,
it's obvious.
It's simple. So I don't even care about reaction time. Kotkaniemi should have had his plan in his head before he got within 10 feet of Sanheim.
For what it's worth, if I was a defenseman, like that, I get finishing your checks in the playoffs, but if I was a defenseman playing on the left side, I shoot right-handed, so like the opposite play. If I was a defenseman playing on the left side and someone finished that hit on me, I would have turned around and given them a 2-hander right away. Like, that's just not really a hit you finish like that. That's said, fine. I was also an asshole on the ice. So
it's for the game's for big boys, and if they take exception to that, then they settle it like men.
What should have happened there was Kotkaniemi should have come up behind Sanheim and go, how many dump-ins are we going to take here, boys?
I don't get it, but okay.
It's a reference to your the opening story that you
golf
told.
buddy.
Oh, how many more dump-ins are you guys going to take? How about you? And he was short too. Oh man, and had a. Oh, I didn't even tell you the best part.
Oh, here we go.
So later, they parked their carts to go on the green, and we're teeing off right near them. This guy had a giant lime green bong in the water bottle holder.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Just give it a rip right after a sesh? Right after a sesh?
Just when you think you've seen everything.
You know, Evan's riled up when he doesn't even make his like half-hearted attempt to censor swearing. We try not to swear, but sometimes it comes out. And if you don't like it, I understand, and send all your complaints to evan.lobsinger@wingedwheelpodcast.com.
If you haven't been in a situation where you're just fired up,
yeah,
I feel for you. You haven't lived.
Mel actually listened to the opening of last episode. She listened to the last episode, and she usually kind of like skips forward to the part that she knows we talked about. But she listened to like the whole episode, and she was like, so Evan just decided that he wasn't opening. I was like, yeah. She's like, what did he say? I was like, Evan, you opened today. And he just flat out said no. And she's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, when we're not all in the room, it is absolute wild, wild west. Evan cannot be controlled. It is, nobody has, if anyone makes a suggestion, the other two are saying, nah, piss off arbitrarily. It doesn't matter. Nobody can be tamed right now.
It's true.
Quarantine has been great and even more awful for us. Elsewhere across the NHL, like you said, Brad, Chicago were exposed as the absolute frauds that they were. Vegas.
That's weird. I heard that they were actually going to replay that series.
I love
that. Was actually just the practice round.
Colorado just bullied the Yotes. I love the two series that are still alive in the West, Dallas, Calgary, and Vancouver, St. Louis. I think those are extremely closely matched, and I think that's a lot of fun. I just love reseeding in the playoffs, man.
So
I absolutely love it.
Here's the thing. From everything I've gathered, those two series look great. They're also usually the 10:30 games, so I've barely got to watch them.
I was about to say,
nightmare.
They're holding true to the West Coast fashion, and they're way past my bedtime.
Yep. Yeah. The one, I think Vancouver had like a 6:30 game, and I caught a good chunk of that and was thoroughly entertained.
I saw Tyler Mott's goal. That was just nasty.
Oh my God.
That was it. That was all I saw.
Shades of Bobby Ryan.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
So I think we'll probably have another series or two done by the time that we get to next episode.
I think they'll all be done by then, won't they?
Will they?
By Sunday?
It'll be pretty close to it, yeah.
Isles are up 2-0 on Washington at the beginning of the third.
It's all Sunday would be game 7 if necessary.
Gotcha. In sad news, Dale Hawerchuk unfortunately passed away. He succumbed to cancer. He was young. He was like
57.
57.
That's devastating. I think is it last year, 2 years ago, where he had to step away from the Barrie Colts because he found out he had abdominal cancer or stomach cancer?
I don't know the timeline, but he got diagnosed, left the team, got a clean bill of health, and then it came back. And from what I remember, when it was announced it came back, it wasn't that long ago. It must have progressed rapidly.
Usually when things come back unexpectedly, like cancer, it comes back with a vengeance. Fuck cancer, man. Dale Hawerchuk, for those of you who don't know, is a hockey legend. Legitimately one of the most underrated players of his era, just because of kind of who he was playing at the same time as. There was a period of time where the only player that had more points than him was Wayne Gretzky. The guy was no slouch and often is looked past when you look at elite players of old. So Dale will be missed. He made a huge impact in the hockey community, and you don't have to look far to find that. So thoughts go out to his family and his friends. So okay, not a ton of Red Wings news. They've loaned a couple more players out to Europe. Gustav Lindstrom has gone to the Swedish second league, I believe, and Matthias Brome, the newest Red Wings signee, has also been loaned out to Europe. So you're going to see more of that across the NHL, not just in Detroit, as these leagues are starting up. Just get them those reps. No one knows when the NHL is going to come back. The rough plan right now is for December, January, but even that is very tentative, right? Those are based on some pretty optimistic predictions, and that's not with a plan of a bubble or anything. So maybe they run like a 4-city Canadian NHL bubble.
I have no idea what they're going to do, but I was listening to, which podcast was it? I forgot, Ray Ferraro, wherever I was listening to him. he was talking about how massive of a disadvantage it is if next season does resume to the 7 teams that have not played at all, Detroit obviously being one of them. So yeah, the more reps these guys can get, the better. If loan out everybody, have Larkin go play in Denmark at this point, like get them some ice, get them some reps, get them their hands and their feel back, and pray. Eiserman, if you're listening, my senior A team, we could use a few bodies. We'll get them some ice. Just
get them out to Milvey.
Yeah,
out to Milvey, out to the 4-wheel drives.
Lots of ice for you boys.
Best
we'll
we can
keep 'em in
do
shape.
is a family season ticket pass and as well complimentary tickets to the season opening fish fry.
We do
Brad,
a steak night. Thank you.
I would sooner go to a season opening fish fry than a Milverton 4-wheel drives game. I'm not going to lie to you.
Buddy,
Can we go to the meet the players, Ryan?
we're not that.
Do you have to meet the players? Do you have to meet the players night, Brad?
Absolutely not.
Can
Ah.
you?
What about the October or the Thanksgiving fall parade? Do you guys put a float in? I remember for New Hamburg we used to just get hammered and build the float.
Wait,
So-
the Firebirds had a float? How do
Dude,
I
we
not?
got absolutely shit faced and then put it together and it was so bad.
My two favorite things about that statement. One, I can't believe a junior C hockey team had.
Hey, we're a legend.
A
We got 3
float.
McDonald's.
That's like
where we went
even
in.
lower than when I play, and they got a float. And two, I mean, the junior C age bracket was 16 to 20. So
Yeah, I was 17.
Brad, what would you do if after one of your senior A games, like Evan and I didn't say anything to you beforehand, and you looked up and much like when kids go to like OHL games, Evan and I are just holding Milverton 4-wheel drives jerseys and going from stall to stall, having the players sign
I'm just going to have my hand out as they get off the ice to get the high five.
no, I can't forget the jersey. I can't have you guys there because my biggest fear in life is people I know watching me play hockey and realizing that I'm a fraud.
Dude, yeah, that was always mine too. I never wanted anyone to come to my games.
I played at a couple arenas before I blew my shoulder out that got pretty full, but they were all strangers and it didn't bother me even a little bit. If you put 10 of my friends in the stands, I'm not going to be able to hit the net even in warm-ups.
Absolutely.
I will say, Brad, you didn't start pumping your own tires until we got on the same ice together and I saw you play. And I'll admit it. Like, I hate Brad. I wish nothing but ill on him personally. Like, the guy sucks. Straight up, this guy sucks. But Brad's good. Like, you took a snapshot from the blue line casually, and I was like, holy shit! Like, that was a nice shot. Like, I didn't think you could do that. And it was impressive. And I think I said it. Like, I'm not an asshole. Like, I'm probably the most perfect person I know. For the people on YouTube, this is a joke. This is a bit. Please, it's a joke.
He means it. He means it. He really, really means it.
And then only after that did we start getting the highlight hero Brad Crisco stories in earnest before and during the podcast. I think Evan hates me for ever saying anything nice to you.
Yeah, it was a mistake. Evan played in a beer league with me at least, so he knows I can. I can suck in my actual league, but I can light up a bunch of people who can't skate in Monday Night Beer League.
Yeah,
That's how Evan described it. The first time he came back, I was like, hey, how's Brad's league? And he went,
It's bad.
oh. He actually made that.
It's like
voice.
every beer league. There's the try-hards and the people who don't care, and I am definitely the don't care.
The skill levels are all over the place too. So for reference, most cities will have A, B, C, and D beer leagues. Believe it or not, this was the A division, and there were teams that would beat us 7-1, and then we would go out and beat other teams 7-1. There was that big of a disparity.
Okay, before we get this is a fun episode. That's all right. We can do these once in a while. But before we get too much more into Brad's hockey career, let's dive into an emerging prospects hockey career.
But I was just pulling up my elite prospects page.
Yeah, I could actually sense that you were. And in order to avoid that, we're going to do this episode's 2020 NHL draft prospect profile, which is none other than Thomas Bordelo out of the US NTDP. Brad, you start us off because you're better at that initialism than I am.
Okay, the USNTDP. Hey, would you look at this? A sub 6 foot, 175 pound forward. I can relate. Anyways, So Thomas Bordeleau, he was, depending who you talk to, the offensive driver for the national team development program this year. I don't want to say he's as good as Hughes, Kane, Goudreau, but he's that type of player. If you're trying to get a visual in your head, small, smart, extremely gifted with the puck, great shot, absolutely incapable of playing a physical game. His skating's better than a lot of players we talk about in this range, for what that's worth. A much better lateral skater, much better on his edges than he is a north-south skater, but for the style of game he plays, that fits him perfectly. His shot gets a lot of credit. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's accurate, but it's not very powerful. But it's good. It's above average. Don't get me wrong. It's his hands and his brain that make him potentially a top 6 forward in the NHL. So again, with most guys who are projected late first round to middle second round, is the talent high enough to crack a top 6 spot in NHL or a top 9 spot on a progressive team? With Bordeleau, I say definitely maybe. Time will tell, but I'm a fan of his game. I like him. I like the transferable skills he has to the NHL. I'm just not sure the raw tools are going to be able to keep up, but hey, I always bet on the smart players, so Bordeleau's a guy I'll bet on.
See, I'm surprised to say you're not sure if the raw tools will keep up, because I think they're there.
They're there, but again, he's not going to play in a bottom 6 role. He's not going to play a grinding role. He's got to be in an offensive role to make the NHL. So I hold players like him to a higher standard, because you throw in a Jake Neighbors. He's a monster. He could play up and down the lineup no problem, despite being a skilled player. Same with like a guy like Will Cooley. Bordeleau and the Kuznedinovs of the world don't fit that bill.
No, and that's fair. For Bordeleau, for me, is like, I think he is, like you described, Brad, an extremely intelligent player. The kind of guy, there's so much of that this draft, it almost seems like we're making it up, but genuinely the kind of guy that can see a play developing, read it, and make the right pass, or make a pass that other people might not have been able to see. And that kind of offensive instinct, that offensive intelligence and ability to execute, in my mind, is what gives him those raw skills, where it not only gives me some hope that he can make it, but it also it allows me to be a little bit more forgiving. Not top tier skating, but if you're going to have that amount of skill, all I really care for you to have is like the decent edge work and first stride and powerful down low strides in the offensive zone. And that's what he has, I think. So that's perfectly fine. Not like a phenomenal skater, but he's got enough there to make it so it's not a hindrance. His shot is accurate. I agree, Brad. It's not, I wouldn't praise it, but that's not to say it can't get better, right? Like, adding strength will go a long way in terms of that shot. So if he can kind of translate that upwards and keep his accuracy and be able to beat goalies 1-on-1, at the professional level by adding strength to a shot, bam, you have a guy who's a possible premier playmaker who has a second threat to his offensive game. Useless physically, and obviously won't be doing that in the bottom 6. Kind of a freak at the faceoff dot. So you think the Red Wings are going to like him for that reason alone. Plays center for the USN TDP. Will he flip over the wing? I think it's a decent shot.
He doesn't have the size and the top end speed to be a centerman in the NHL, I don't think.
But he flips his stick, so both sides are his strong side on faceoffs.
Oh, and that's cool as hell. Like, the Red Wings of old will go wild for that.
Oh man, they're gonna, those face-off stats that they show on the broadcast. Wow, they're gonna love that.
No, I think he's a guy who has a lot of potential, and he seems to me he could be that quiet centerman who's drafted, who he's not going to be the standout star of his draft class, but he very quickly moves into being like a top 10 talent, just because he does break that top 6, and that kind of like I've seen it described as cerebral, like this kind of player with the way they just read the ice. I think it was Wheeler who said that before. Just a really good offensive instinct and a really good hockey IQ, and if he's able to translate that to the NHL level, I don't know, I wouldn't hate that pick. If I'm a team in the late first round. I don't think he makes it to Detroit at 32, but if he was their pick at 32, I certainly wouldn't be upset by it.
Just a footnote as well. He's a commit to the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really plays into it, but he'd be closely watched as a prospect.
Yeah, and if he's going to the NCAA, he'll be there for a couple of years probably, unless he has like an absolute breakout season. So that's good. The Red Wings would also want that, be able to kind of keep a close eye on his development.
Yeah, that's a huge bonus. One big drawback, though, for me with Bordeleau, he was good this year for the USNTDP, but when you look at his raw totals for a guy that might be a first-round pick in the NHL, they weren't spectacular. He was under a point per game player, not by much, literally by 1 point. But still, you look at when Matthews and Kane and all these guys came through, they were like 2 points a game. So not that you expect Bordeleau to hold that pace, but if you're expecting him to be like a top line scorer, he has a lot of progressing to do to get there. But hey, like I said, second liner, second power play unit, offensive contributor, playmaker, put him with a high end goal scorer. I could still see it working. Like I'm not down on him because of that.
Seems like he's got some utility to him that could be intriguing for some teams.
He would definitely be subject to whatever team that drafts him development system, right? Like he's not going to shatter through that. Like nobody's saying he's a Kane Matthews type. He needs molding and he has the tools there, and it's just about shaping them. And that's the thing. Like we talk about these players and their potential, and if they reach their ceiling, that's not all on them. It's on the teams that pick and develop them. And sometimes it's not even about whether they have a good or bad development system. It's about whether it's a good fit or it's the right kind of development system for them, or just the timing or the weather that day. Like it's all kind of a crapshoot. So yeah, he strikes me as the kind of guy that needs work, who needs coaching, who needs continued development. But that's the case for most NHL draft picks. We fixate on the Lafrenières and the Byfields and the top end picks, but the reality is the real work, the real meat of the draft is done after the first round. Like those are the guys where you have to find the gems and that bit of clay that you can mold into something beautiful, but you just have to have the right hands to do it, and it has to be the right piece of clay. This is a stupid metaphor, but what's new with me? Anyways, do you guys think that he falls to 32? And if so, would you be happy with him as the Red Wings pick?
Again, all depends who's available. I would be totally comfortable picking him at 32. I don't think it's unreasonable the Red Wings get him at 46. I don't think so. I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't think it's crazy. Like, just looking here, he is 51 on Mackenzie's list.
51.
Mm-hmm. But he's kind of all over the place. One list has him at 20. And actually, looking at elite prospects in the 6 rankings they have here, Mackenzie's is actually the lowest. So, for whatever that's worth.
He looks a lot like Martin St. Louis, so Steve Yzerman's not picking him.
Poor Steve, man. He took so much heat for that decision, and I think it was the right. Wow,
it was.
They won the gold, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Canada, right? There's always hot picks that people don't like.
That was a year where it was the Sweden final, right? Like they didn't really have a challenge besides that frickin' Latvian goalie that almost gave us all a heart attack.
Yes.
Good old Kristers Gulevskis.
Wonder what that guy's up to.
Well, I'm on
really
prospects.
If you can figure out how to spell his name, I will be impressed.
We can just all pretend that he's yet another Columbus goaltender.
Yeah, it's just an anagram of Elvis Merzlikins. They only have one goalie. They've been fooling everybody to this one. And Gudlevskis is playing for the Fishtown Penguins in the DEL and not putting up particularly good stats.
Hold on. The city in Germany is called Fishtown?
It says Fishtown Penguins, and it's spelled exactly Fishtown, except there's just a C thrown in there. That's it.
Fishtown Penguins is a hysterical name because like your city is named as the food that your mascot eats. Imagine being like the Burgertown Fat Guys. If we start a hockey team, if we ever own a hockey team, we're immediately renaming them to the Burgertown Fat Guys. Completely unrelated, though maybe not. I'm having a beer right now during the podcast. It's the off season. Who cares? And I often have to burp, and I usually mute myself while I burp. And I'm thinking like one of these days I'm going to forget. Or one of these days I'm going to forget whether I'm muted or unmuted, and I'm just going to absolutely let one rip on this podcast.
Yep, that's the great secret of podcasts. No, the listeners never know when any of us release bodily functions. Ever.
Ah, well, I sometimes edit it into your guys' tracks when I'm doing the post because I know you don't go back and listen.
Yeah, I believe that.
Actually, when I post these podcasts, I just like hobble together all of our pre-show conversations, and it's just 90 minutes of Evan talking about golf, believe it or not. All of our success is owed to Evan.
Yes. It's true.
Anyhow, that's Thomas Bordeleau. Until next episode, anything else before we wrap up and head to overtime, guys?
I don't think we mentioned it, but I think Matthew Tkachuk is not playing tonight, so that is a big loss for Calgary.
Oh. How come?
He's hurt. He got sandwiched the other night, and
yes,
was looking like
games, I thought.
Yeah, but I think he was supposed to be a game time decision tonight, but it looks like he's not going. So big loss for Calgary.
Oh man, Brad, you know, you commented on this last episode, and so I don't want to get too much into it. But more news came out about Tuukka Rask, which like stupid that it even has to, but like he left the bubble and sitting out these playoffs because his daughter had a medical emergency and wanted to go be with her, and that was like the last straw. I went into the comments on that.
Oh yeah, big mistake. I don't even know what was there, but I know what was there.
Holy shit!
Which platform?
Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't even matter. It would be awful either way.
I don't look at Facebook comments. I don't value my sanity. Like, I really don't. But I won't look at Facebook comments.
Yeah,
I read the news every morning. That's how much I don't value my sanity.
Yeah, that is a bad decision. Yeah, find it ridiculous that people need to justify why someone needs to leave for a personal emergency.
Frick, man. Like, imagine... anyway... Anyways, let's get into overtime, which for those of you who don't know is our segment at the end of every episode of the Winged Wheel podcast where we take questions and comments from fans and listeners across the hockey world, across different platforms. We have two different kinds of episodes. We have weekend episodes, which typically happen on Sunday nights, and midweek episodes, so to speak, which happen on either Wednesday or Thursday nights. Midweek episodes, the overtime segment is Patreon exclusive. So we're going to head over to Patreon, where we say thank you to all of our supporters for allowing this show to go on. You guys are the reason this show happens. Someone asked me recently, they're like, hey, what happened to all those sponsors you guys were getting? I was like, hey, in the pandemic, nobody's spending money to sponsor a hockey podcast.
Hey, we got a lot of swag from Upper Deck to give away over the next couple months. So
yeah, good for you, Upper Deck.
That's not nothing.
Good for you. And it's cool stuff. More to come on that. Anyways, Patreon. The first comment comes to us from the LeVar Ball Stan Club. He says, so I just looked into the NBA lottery. Wow, I would be kind of pissed. The Pistons have anywhere from 1st to 9th pick. It's 7th. Like the Wings are awful, but could you imagine that? They're the 5th seed, but 4 outside teams can pick in the top 4. Such bullshit. Why does everyone hate the city? I have a slight feeling the Pistons will pick first in a weaker draft. Pick Melo, the man who plays no defense, and Detroit will implode. Well, thankfully, I suppose that's not going to be the case. On a positive note, Caps won a game. They also played tonight. Let this be the year that we fist the Islanders. 2020 has been one huge Ferk fest, so we can do it. Positive vibes and go Caps. Update: the Pistons fell to 7th. Not bad. It's a bad draft. It's a bad draft, so as it could be. Hearing more LeVar would be legendary, though. I'm not sure I want more of the Ball family in my life.
Can I have less? Is that an option?
Yeah. Josh Terrell says, how epic would it be if an NHL team actually pulled an Evan and tried to draft a player who's already been taken? I love that. Everyone just takes Anton Lundell.
I'm hoping that when Jeff Gorton walks up to the mic to select first overall this year, he accidentally says Alex Laferriere, who's like a 3rd round projection.
The best. The absolute best. Garrett TV says, Hockey Amigos, what's your all-time favorite non-Wings playoff series? For the NHL, mine might be the Cup Finals in '94 between Vancouver and the Rangers. I was already watching Wings hockey for a few years by then, but that was the first series where the scale of it really made sense to me. 7-game cup final, the Rangers ending a 54-year drought, Messier game-winning goal, yada yada. A crazy game 7 with the Canucks down 1 and hitting the post twice in a minute with less than 5 to play, and then a bunch of weird clock stuff that made the end of the game take forever. So much anticipation, plus after that was when the whole Trady Ashton stuff started rumbling, and then eventually was linked to Yzerman the following year after we lost to the Devils. It was a great setup for Detroit, New Jersey 95 final. Non-hockey, the 06 Tigers Athletics and 07 Golden State Dallas, first ever NBA 8-over-1 upset, were both cool. Side note, I'm kind of rooting for the Colorado McKinnons from here on out. They're legit and a blast to watch. Side note 2, man, we are a ways away from competing. Roll 4 lines, boys. Let's go Red Wings.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So many series jump to mind immediately. So a couple from when I can remember just starting to watch hockey. Rangers Devils 94 in the conference finals was a trip. Oilers Stars, that huge upset in 97, and then the Oilers did it again the next year to Colorado. The Devils Stars final in 2000 was really fun. I know I'm forgetting a few here, but there were some absolute dandies in the 90s, and I'm forgetting a ton of them. Just from not that I had any vested interest in any of these, and I actually hated them, but then 2004 and 2010 Cup finals were really fun, even though I was pissed who won both of those. But hey, whatever, a good series is a good series.
Vancouver, when they finally beat the Blackhawks, that was a fun series to watch.
Yeah, because they almost blew a 3-0 lead on that one.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. That was an insane series.
That whole series was nuts because Vancouver was up 3-0. Chicago came back to tie the series 3-3. Then Vancouver went up in Game 7, and then Jonathan Toews tied it late, short-handed in the third of Game 7. So, like, Vancouver was ready to melt down before Burrows popped it in overtime. That was a really good one.
Yeah, that was like, whether or not you were a fan of either team, like, you just got emotional watching that. Yeah, no, that was cool. That was in Vancouver's heyday.
Yeah. Pick any Montreal-Boston series from the last 20 years. 2004, 2011, 2012, I think. Always a good time.
It was 4-1. Always stands out.
Yep.
Cleveland, when they upset the Golden State Warriors. Love that one. Any of the Pistons championships.
I'm not going for non-hockey. This will take too long.
Evan Beckner says, at what point does the NHL consider publishing the playoff edition of the rule book? It's obvious the games aren't being called anywhere remotely close to the regular season. I know we say this every year, but so far the first round has featured the most mind-boggling and dangerous calls and non-calls I've ever seen. Quinn Hughes, cross-checked and sucker-punched repeatedly by Perron, no call. Brendan Gallagher butt-ended in the jaw while on his knees and gets up spitting blood, no call. Kotkaniemi with a textbook 2-minute boarding gets 5 in a game. No consistency, no accountability. Don't even get me started on goal challenges. P.S. Never take a pitch on 3-0. Never. I agree on that last point. We do disagree on the Kotkaniemi thing, but hey, like I said, there's definitely an argument to be had. Bert Crew, who, first-time commenter and new patron. Bert, welcome, and thank you for supporting the Winged Wheel podcast. They say, hey, gents, first-time commenter. With all the Drysdale talk last episode, he's ranked as the top defender in this draft, but where would you have him ranked among the top defensemen of next year's draft? As much as it pains me, the Red Wings will probably be picking among the top of the draft next year as well and have a shot at an elite defensive prospect. You don't go into a season expecting to lose, but Stevie knows where this team is competitively. Wouldn't we be better served taking the elite forward this year, knowing what's at the top next year, or is Drysdale that far ahead of the D in the 21 draft? Thanks, guys. No, I think you got it perfectly.
Yep, I agree fully. I think, again, we've got a full year for things to change, so hopefully everybody takes it with a grain of salt and doesn't sit here and say, Brad said Brant Clark's better than Jamie Drysdale a year from now, and Brant Clark just completely flames out. But I would have Drysdale 3 or 4 ranked in the next draft. I really like Brant Clark and Carson Lambos, and I think Drysdale and Owen Power will be interesting because they're such different players that could be a fun argument if they were in the same draft.
Joe Delia says, hey guys, with the cap being frozen and with ownership not making as much money because of the pause, do you think owners will tell teams to not spend to the cap and try to lose salary? Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. And so we see that we mentioned it before, but the $81.5 million cap, it's going to be lower than that for a lot of teams, just internally. What about Detroit? Do you think the Illiches will allow Stevie to take advantage with this, or with the low attendance this year and the possibility of not having fans in the stands for next year, make it tighter for Stevie? Just want to hear your thoughts on how you guys think things will go down in the fall. Thanks.
It's going to be interesting to see how Stevie can pitch taking on bad contracts as an investment. Because you want to make money, you have to win. If you have to win, you got to make moves that are best for the team. But the moves that are best for the team right now are going to literally be throwing money away. So glad I'm not the one that has to be in those negotiations.
Scared money don't make money.
Evan's investing notes, the new episode of the podcast. No, definitely. I think I don't want to pretend and say the Illiches are infallible in terms of money. I think they have it. I'm not sure. You don't bring in a guy like Stevie who wants to execute his plan and then pass up on literally the best opportunity he has to improve this team beyond what he can do just by drafting regularly. And that includes the draft lottery. He is more likely to improve this team by taking advantage of the cap situation that Detroit has than he does of winning the draft lottery. And I mean that. C-Nods says, hey guys, let's say Oilers let Athanasiou walk. What do you offer him if you're Stevie Y?
Pretty similar to his last contract with Detroit. Couple years around that $3 to $4 million mark. Nothing long term.
Yeah, if he wants a 1 year, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't see him wanting to come back, though. He was pretty angry when he left.
Yeah. RC Tendy says Cole Perfetti was interviewed on TSN about the rumors of him getting selected by Detroit or Ottawa. He had a ton of good things to say about us and seemed like he could go on talking about Detroit for a while. Didn't have a whole lot to say about Ottawa, though. Been watching his highlights and he's really growing on me. Yeah,
there's not a lot to say about Ottawa, honestly.
Hey, Ottawa's a great city. But no, genuinely.
Yeah, if only the Senators played in it.
No, he's going to have a lot of links to Detroit because of obviously the ownership group there, and playing in Saginaw, so close to the Red Wings. Of course, he's for sure had a ton of meetings and contact with them. I think that's probably Perfetti knows that's his best possible chance of getting picked as high as possible is the Red Wings at number 4. So, he's going to want that no matter what. And he probably has some kind of, tendency to Detroit. So just playing near there. So yeah, of course that's going to be the case. And as much as, you might not want to believe it because our preferences might lay elsewhere, where there's smoke, there's fire usually. So you have to think that the Red Wings are hot to trot on Perfetti. So that's of course going to be the case. And Ottawa picking Perfetti means Byfield or Stützle are falling, which I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. Third Man In says, hey boys, could you give us a quick primer on what you look for when watching prospect videos? I mostly watch videos on YouTube, which I know are just highlights. Still, I find myself higher on Drysdale than you all seem. I get that with Raymond. I'm watching a kid playing in a men's league, but Drysdale pops more for me than Perfetti, and Rossi falls third. I'm assuming my eye isn't as trained as yours. What are you looking for?
For me, it's hard to say. The way they read the play is always the big thing for me, which is the dumb way of saying hockey IQ. Are they making the right plays at the right time? Because how many high-skilled players have we seen come into the NHL and flame out? And you go, okay, they're ridiculously good skater, ridiculously good hands, great shot. Why are they not better? Well, if you don't make the right plays, it doesn't matter. Like Jonathan Drouin, for example, a guy who everybody thought for sure, surefire battling for the Art Ross every year. Not even close. So that's first and foremost. And then when you realize if they're making the right play, do they have the skill to pull off the plays they see? When you see someone truly special like a Lafreniere is, they're seeing stuff on the ice in real time that you're not even picking out on the TV. It's like, okay, well, there's his outlets, there's his options, here's what he could do. And then they find a seam or a lane that you didn't even imagine. They hit it, they make it happen. So it's little stuff like that makes the biggest difference at a game that's played at breakneck speed. So it's an overly simplistic answer because I stand by the fact that just about any casual hockey fan can watch prospects play and go, oh, that guy's got a really good shot. Oh, that guy's got really good hands. Oh, that guy's a really good skater. It's not hard to pick out that stuff. It's coupled with how they use it.
Yeah, what I look for mostly, and first of all, I sympathize with you in that, like, you're only watching highlights on YouTube, and don't get down on yourself for that, because this stuff's not really made available for the public. You really have to dig to find a good resource, and they tend to get taken down and get moved, and you make do with what you have. In addition to what Brad said, I really lean on setting a baseline of fundamentals, like he kind of alluded to. How are they at skating? How are they at with their offensive IQ? How are they with defensive responsibility? What's their speed like? What's their edge work like? Do they get pushed off the puck very easily? All that kind of stuff really matters. And you also want to compare how they play against their peers. So, if a guy's playing in the OHL and he's absolutely shining against everyone he's playing with, that matters. But then you also have to factor in your previous knowledge about the league. The OHL, and this is a question that came up on Twitter, and I didn't have a chance to answer it. So if you listen, I'm sorry. But someone said, like, Marco Rossi absolutely tore up the OHL, but Lucas Raymond obviously had a very limited output, understanding his, limited playtime, but he had a limited output in the SHL. Is the SHL really that much better? Yeah, the SHL is a professional men's league, one of the best leagues in the world. It's not a knock on the OHL, but the OHL is never meant to be a professional league. It's a junior league. And so you have to factor that knowledge in as well. So there's no perfect system to it. A lot of it is intuition. A lot of it is guesswork, but a lot of it is just, figuring out the fundamentals and going from there.
Like, for reference too, with that OHL versus SHL, go pick any random OHL team from, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years ago and go through the roster one by one and play a Where Are They Now game. A shockingly low amount of players amount to playing in serious professional men's hockey that soon, like at all, after the OHL. Most of them end up going through university, playing university hockey, and then that's it. So not that that's a bad thing, that obviously they're great hockey players to get there, but it puts into perspective just how much higher a league like the SHL is versus the OHL, where half of that team or 3/4 of that team, once they're of age, cannot make a league like the SHL.
Jake Nagy says, I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a massive Damian Lillard fan. On the season, Logo Lillard is shooting 69%. Nice. On attempts from 35 to 40 feet out. Jeez. While the rest of the league is shooting 16% from that distance. So my question for you is, who is an NHL player that obliterates everyone else in the league in a specific statistical category?
Alex Ovechkin's one-timer from the Ovi spot. It's a lot of players score from there. He's the only one who consistently beat goalies from there cleanly with no screen, no deflection.
Except for Semyon Varlamov tonight, they just lost 4-0.
Oh, it's over.
It done.
Rip Ovi.
The Islanders beat the Capitals 4-1.
Did I really score? I need to know if I'm getting a free donut from Tim Hortons tomorrow or not.
I didn't see him score.
Crap.
It reminds me of when Pavel Datsyuk would have, like, by far and gone the most takeaways in the league. Joe Thornton, in his prime, would have, like, an insane amount of assists, like enough assists to win the Art Ross most years.
No, it's not a stat, like a skill. Like Ovi's one-timer is in a world of its own. Connor McDavid's skating is in a world of its own. Like,
Michael Berry says, hey, hope all is well. Jim Rutherford came out and said he fully supports Jack Johnson. What are some Red Wings players that Holland loved that you just didn't understand? Jonathan Eriksson.
Justin Abdelkader.
Just gestures broadly at everybody over the age of 30 on the Red Wings currently.
First, I was like, who's gestures broadly? Yester
give him a
Broadly.
5-year contract.
Oh, yeah. Ken Holland just paid him $32 million.
Also hoping Detroit trades for the Lundqvist contract to be bought out or not, depending on his preference, so that New York can go after Torrey Krug or Taylor Hall after Jake Allen's performance for the Blues.
I absolutely hope not. I hope Lundqvist's career doesn't end in Detroit. Everyone says he deserves to win a cup. Well, I think he's now in the spot where he can do that.
He's going to Edmonton.
Oh, God.
Chris Smith says, I'm just trying to get more into Twitter, and it's probably the worst idea I've had during the pandemic. Yeah, we could have told you that. The good, Bob McKenzie and the fake Danny Heatley account. The bad, almost everything else. It feels like it's just white hot takes, brands trying to be relatable to young people, and Boston sports fans fitting the stereotype so well that I can't tell if it's parody or not. Yeah, you have the gist of Twitter.
Oh, man. Brand trying so hard to appeal to young kids. I feel like attacked.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It gave me a good idea for a question, though. What's your all-time favorite bad take you've seen from an idiot on the internet? For me, it's probably a Reddit post about how Vegas getting an NHL team before Thunder Bay, Burnaby, or the prospering and rapidly growing municipality of Wood Buffalo is proof that Bettman hates Canada.
That had to be a parody. There's no way.
I still love the Wood Buffalo meme. I'm stealing Evan's answer. It's the thing he referenced before when the Blackhawks got beat by the Predators, I believe it was. And that Reddit user posted that thing saying the series, it was a fluke and the NHL should replay the series because there's no way that result would happen again. I love that.
Oh my God. The worst take on Twitter. I have thousands of candidates. 500 of them are my own tweets.
Your favorite, though?
But they make me angry, so it doesn't really work, does it? Does it? I'm gonna that guy. Okay, I don't remember who it was, but he would tweet. So if any of the big, so I'm generalizing this, and I have absolutely no patience to actually look for it, but there was this guy. Anytime McKenzie, Dreger, Friedman, anybody, big talking head posted anything good about Vegas during their run to the Cup finals in their expansion year, this guy came in a flaming in the comments saying, this was rigged, this was BS, this was, the rules were entirely unfair, how dare they get the 7th or the 11th best player on every team, this was completely stacked in their favor, no wonder this happened, which is an awful take, but what makes it my favorite is he was everywhere.
Was it Steve Simmons?
Oh my God, the Steve Simmons hot dog story has to be up there as one of the worst takes of all time.
That's amazing.
And the fact that Kessel put 2 hot dogs in the cup makes it all that much better.
Someone said something in defense of Steve Simmons. Like, he asked the tough questions. I'm like, look, I'm not going to get into the merits of journalism. I'm not a journalist. I don't have to do the job that these guys do. I'm not going to pretend to be able to comment on that in an absolute form. But if you put out an obviously bullshit article or a take or whatever he did about Phil Kessel eating too many hot dogs, you deserve literally all of the ridicule you get. And I hate when reporters don't report on tough things to maintain access in the room. I think that's bullshit, and I think that's how we escape real stories, sports or otherwise. But you have to have some semblance of self-preservation. Like, everything that happened when he reported that Matthews contracted COVID-19, which obviously was a leak. And, you know, some people said, well, that's his responsibility as a reporter. And other people said, no, like, there was not necessary to release a player, blah, blah, blah. Matthews didn't take well to it. The team didn't take well to it. And I guarantee you they would have been way more forgiving if Steve Simmons wasn't the same doorknob who posted the hot dog story. Yeah. Anyways. Joseph Fournier says, hey there, fellas. So glad I didn't put that money down on the Canes. They're a completely different team without Andrei Svechnikov. One color analyst said that he has that Hossa quality where he can handle any pass no matter how bad it's lobbed at him. Brad, I think you've talked about that with him before. I believe it was after watching the Canes passing game without him. Although it's not as bad as Columbus trying to pass. Woof. Can you guys think of possible quick fixes to make either team better, or do their problems lie deeper and more complex? I'll say this first. Both of them lost to excellent teams.
Yes. And both, Carolina, especially missing Svechnikov and Pesce hurts. I think Carolina's a lot closer and their problems are a lot more superficial than Columbus. Columbus has a plain old lack of high-end talent. I mean, it can't be, I know the joke's running around about Columbus went further than Panarin, Bobrovsky, and Duchesne this year, but Columbus desperately needs a guy like Panarin. They can't score their way out of problems, which unfortunately, no matter how tight you are defensively, you need to score yourself out of problems every once in a while. And they can't, and their pipeline isn't strong. on offense, this is a team that's going to struggle to score goals for a long, long time. I think Carolina just put Pesce in there and Svechnikov in there, and they gave Boston a much tougher time. And let's not forget, Boston was the President's Trophy winner this year. So it's not like with the round robin reseeding bullshit, Boston is the 4th seed. They shouldn't be the 4th seed. That was stupid. But I think Carolina next year, if they come in full health and get a bit more stability in net, I think we're talking about a potential cup contender there. I really like what they've done. They don't need to get superstars to be great. They already have a few.
Sarah Siv wrote a great article, and the headline in the first couple of paragraphs were excellent, I thought, which is that Carolina has now enjoyed its honeymoon period of like being the improbable underdog and like the fun story and like those bunch of jerks and the storm surge and all that. But now they're in their period of expectation, and the fans see the team they've built and they expect success, and they have to continue to build on that. And I think that's absolutely true. And I think they will continue to do that. You got a little bit of a funny ownership situation, but besides that, like Rod Brindamore is no joke, and they're going to continue to try to build a great team there. Goes on to say, weak down the middle, but trying to go deep for your generational franchise goalie. Put your centerman in a Stay Fresh cheese bag and let them literally do nothing until you sneak into the playoffs. Stay Fresh cheese bags, the official cheese bag of Suzuki, Deneau, and Kanyemi. That's how I said his name until like probably a year after he was drafted. It was really difficult. Okay. That is this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. We will be back on Sunday. We will have more to talk about. Evan will inevitably have gone to prison and needed us to bail him out for a golf-related altercation. But until then, we'd like to thank everyone for listening. All of you who are leaving us 5-star reviews on iTunes. Literally cannot tell you how much that means for the show. It helps us grow and expand more than anything else that we can do. So thank you all so much for that. All of our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat behind the show and our name level sponsors. The septic tank of that bitch Carol Baskins, Arjun Shaker, Greach, Jeremiah Adobo, Jake Kiefer, LeVar Ball Stan Club, Brad Smith, Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Brandon M, Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Kaylin Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Charlie Elkins, Hana Lee, Obeer Juan Kenobi, Trevor Pevavar, Alex Ott, Ashley Van Konet, Chris Frank, Connor Leighton, Matthew Keeler, Simon Anderson, Antonio Gracias, John Evans, Quaz, and Stan Olsen. Thank you all. Until Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.